Good morning. You are joining us today on the 30th of March, 2026.
Good morning.
We are here to provide a comprehensive intelligence briefing on the region encompassing Southern Europe and North Africa. Our deep dive today is titled, Mediterranean Becomes Global Flashpoint.
Indeed. We will be examining the primary patterns of events over the past 2 weeks, analyzing the local, national, and international impacts. Our objective is to extract the perspectives of key decision makers and outline their probable courses of action.
Before we proceed with our analysis, we have a brief message regarding today's sponsor, which is ProWave AI. This deep dive is generated by Stylo News, the AI-powered news application.
Yes, and Stylo News is actually the consumer version of the Stylo Intel Ops software. That is an advanced system designed for enterprise operations across government, military, and corporate sectors.
Exactly. This means you, the listener, now have unique access to a tool specifically designed to support global decision makers.
And to celebrate their 1-year anniversary, ProWave AI is offering a March special discount on Stylo News.
You can use the discount code STYLILO at www.stylonews.com. This offer is valid until the end of March and is strictly limited to the first 250 subscribers.
Now, it is our mission today to provide clarity on these rapidly developing events. However, we must issue a clear and mandatory disclaimer regarding the intelligence estimates we are about to discuss.
That is correct. The source materials we are analyzing today contain highly polarized, politically charged, and directly conflicting viewpoints.
Ranging from Russian state narratives to Western military perspectives.
Right, and highly contested social media sentiments. We must explicitly state to you that we do not endorse any of these viewpoints, nor are we taking any political sides.
Precisely. Our role today is strictly to impartially report the facts and the mechanics behind these events.
Well, let us begin our briefing with the most immediate physical anomaly currently destabilizing the Mediterranean basin.
Yes. On March 3rd, the Russian liquefied natural gas tanker, the Arctic Medegas, was struck by maritime drones near the Libyan port of Sirte.
Following the attack, the crew was evacuated. The vessel is carrying over 60,000 tons of LNG and 900 tons of diesel fuel.
And it has been drifting autonomously between Italy, Malta, and Libya.
The perspectives on this incident are sharply divided. The Russian government has officially condemned the attack as an act of international terrorism and piracy, placing the blame squarely on Ukraine.
From Moscow's stated perspective, this is an attack on its shadow fleet.
Right, which is a network of vessels operating under obscure flags to bypass Western energy sanctions.
Conversely, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and Maltese Prime Minister Robert Abela are treating this strictly as an impending ecological disaster.
They are. Both nations are denying the damaged vessel port access while deploying naval and salvage tugs to monitor its drift.
International bodies, including the World Wildlife Fund and the European Union, are warning that the vessel is a ticking time bomb. They warn it is capable of releasing lethal cryogenic clouds.
That specific terminology requires technical clarification.
It does. A cryogenic cloud occurs when supercooled liquefied natural gas breaches its containment and hits warmer ambient air and seawater.
Right.
The liquid rapidly expands into a gas, absorbing massive amounts of heat. This creates a dense, freezing fog that hugs the surface of the water.
Which sounds incredibly dangerous.
It asphyxiates any marine life or human crew it envelops, and if that massive vapor cloud finds a single ignition source, the resulting thermobaric detonation would be catastrophic to any nearby coastal infrastructure.
Okay, let's unpack this. A drifting tanker sounds like a standard Coast Guard emergency, but this is a sanctioned ship.
Yes.
My hypothesis here is that the real danger isn't just the gas, it is the legal vacuum. These shadow fleets operate using flag hopping and obscure, decentralized insurance policies.
Precisely.
If this vessel runs aground in Sicily and detonates, who actually pays for the multi-billion-dollar cleanup? There is no clear corporate entity to hold liable. Does international law have a mechanism for a sanctioned, weaponized hazard drifting into sovereign waters?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, you are identifying the precise mechanism of hybrid warfare.
Right.
International maritime law, specifically the conventions governing salvage and liability, relies on transparent state registries and recognized insurance syndicates.
And the shadow fleet was deliberately constructed to bypass that transparency.
Exactly. Therefore, when a crisis occurs, the legal framework collapses. Russia uses these fleets to maintain its economic engine despite sanctions.
But the inherent risk of operating dilapidated, uninsured vessels in conflict zones is entirely transferred to the coastal states.
Yes, the burden of a geopolitical clash in Eastern Europe is now being physically borne by the local Mediterranean ecosystems and the maritime authorities of Italy and Malta.
The same lack of centralized maritime authority off the North African coast that allows a shadow fleet to operate with impunity is exactly what facilitates our next focal point.
Indeed.
The physical environment of the Mediterranean is actively compounding the severe humanitarian threats faced by individuals navigating these exact same turbulent waters.
The central Mediterranean route remains the deadliest migration corridor on the globe. Early in 2026, intelligence reports indicate over 600 migrant deaths or disappearances.
And this ongoing baseline of risk was severely exacerbated by a recent Medicane.
Yes, a Mediterranean hurricane designated as Cyclone Harry or Jelena.
This Medicane generated unprecedented 16-meter waves. It caused dozens of migrant boats departing from Tunisia and Libya to capsize,
Leaving an estimated 1,000 people missing.
In response to the continuous flow of migrants and the escalating death toll, the Italian government under Giorgia Meloni is advancing legislation to implement a naval blockade.
Which would theoretically empower the military to intercept migrant vessels in international waters before they reach Italian jurisdiction.
To understand the mechanics of this proposed blockade, we must look at the atmospheric drivers. Medicanes are becoming more frequent and violent due to rising sea surface temperatures.
Right, which provide the thermal energy required to fuel hurricane-like structures in a relatively enclosed sea.
When you combine increasingly violent climate-driven weather with desperate human movement, the mortality rate naturally spikes. What does this mean for you as an observer of global human movement?
Well, looking at the legal architecture of a naval blockade, we see a massive point of friction. I have to question how this functions practically.
Right. Under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, any vessel in distress must be rescued, regardless of its origin or the legality of its voyage.
Does a unilateral naval blockade operating in international waters prioritize national border security at the expense of established, centuries-old maritime rescue obligations?
You cannot simply build a physical wall on the open ocean.
This raises an important question about the enforcement of European border mandates. The decision-makers are operating from fundamentally opposing directives.
They are. The EU's border agency, Frontex, is facing intense scrutiny for prioritizing aerial surveillance and border deterrence over deploying physical naval assets for life-saving rescue operations.
Meanwhile, the United Nations and the International Organization for Migration are fiercely condemning the high death tolls.
They are advocating for safe, legal pathways and criticizing their restrictive border regimes that force migrants onto unseaworthy vessels in extreme weather.
When we analyze the social media sentiment, particularly on the platform X, the public discourse mirrors this institutional division.
Sentiment analysis shows extreme polarization. Certain demographics express deep alarm over potential terror infiltration, pointing to reported violence in places like Tarragona, Spain.
And they heavily applaud Italy's firm blockade stance as a necessary defense measure.
Conversely, other demographics fiercely criticize the humanitarian cost of what they term Fortress Europe,
arguing that militarizing a sea only enriches the smuggling cartels.
For the European Union, the proposed courses of action are starkly divided. One path is to fundamentally reform the Dublin regulation and asylum frameworks to distribute the pressure across the continent.
The alternative is to further fortify the maritime border through naval deployment and externalize border control by funding North African coast guards.
However, those policies in Europe are merely reactionary. The launch points for these perilous journeys are rooted in deep instability on the ground.
Yes, European border control is directly reacting to the fractured security landscape in North Africa, specifically in Libya.
Libya's security architecture remains deeply fragmented. There is the internationally recognized Government of National Unity in Tripoli,
as well as the Libyan National Army in the east, commanded by Khalifa Haftar, and various semi-autonomous militias controlling specific municipalities.
Intelligence estimates indicate that southern Libya, specifically the Fezzan region, is currently experiencing an expansion of Islamic State facilitators.
These terror networks are utilizing existing illicit smuggling corridors originating from the Sahel and Sudan to move weapons, narcotics, and personnel northward toward the coast.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If you visualize Libya's security apparatus, it is not simply a puzzle, it is Jenga tower.
That is an apt analogy.
You have local militias, international terror networks, and foreign intelligence agencies, all simultaneously pulling out and replacing structural blocks to build their own strategic platforms.
They're all competing for control over the exact same vital nodes, oil fields, border crossings, and airports.
Hoping the entire state structure does not collapse in the process.
This fragility is why recent geopolitical realignments are so critical. Turkey is actively forging new diplomatic and security ties with the Eastern commander, Khalifa Haftar.
This is a highly significant pivot. Turkey is essentially exchanging political legitimacy and military hardware for energy rights and maritime access in the Eastern Mediterranean.
Deliberately bypassing the recognized government in Tripoli.
The motives here are driven by maritime borders. Turkey operates under a naval doctrine often referred to as Blue Homeland or Mavi Vatan.
They seek to extend their exclusive economic zone across the Mediterranean to secure underwater drilling rights and disrupt the proposed gas pipelines connecting Israel, Cyprus, and Greece to mainland Europe.
By securing an agreement with Haftar in eastern Libya, Turkey attempts to draw a legal line straight across the sea.
The perspectives on this Turkish alignment are intensely guarded and hostile. The Tripoli government views this as a profound betrayal that deliberately destabilizes national unity for foreign gain.
Greece, Egypt, and the broader EU view Turkey's expanding footprint with deep suspicion, as it directly challenges their own maritime sovereignty and energy security.
Sentiment on X reflects this stark geopolitical divide. Users operating from Greek and EU perspectives view the recent defense deals and Turkish drone deployments in Libya as a catastrophic empowerment of neo-Ottoman ambitions,
effectively surrounding the agency.
Pro-Turkey users, however, frame these agreements as a legally sound and necessary counterbalance to Western hegemony and unfair exclusion from Mediterranean energy wealth.
Given this highly contested environment, what are the realistic courses of action for Western powers?
The intelligence assessments propose two primary courses of action for the West to manage the Libyan theater. The first is an increased military deterrence posture.
We are already observing this with France deploying the Charles de Gaulle Aircraft Carrier Strike Group to the eastern Mediterranean near Cyprus.
Right. The objective is to project power and secure vital energy shipping routes.
The second course of action is intense diplomatic back-channeling to enforce existing arms embargoes,
aiming to prevent the localized militia conflicts in Libya from escalating into a full-scale, multi-theater proxy war involving Turkey, Russia, and European powers.
Yet, despite the presence of nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, drifting Russian bombs, and proxy militias vying for control, the region is paradoxically bound together by mutual necessity.
Specifically, the undeniable economic gravity of energy integration and the resilience of the local populations.
Indeed. The fundamental reality is that North Africa is rapidly transitioning into a primary energy partner for Europe.
In the wake of sanctions, Europe must permanently replace Russian pipeline gas. Western oil majors are currently investing heavily in Libya to revitalize dormant production facilities.
Furthermore, we are tracking the rapid advancement of cross-border electricity projects, most notably the ELMED interconnector.
This project physically links Tunisia's power grid directly to Sicily via high-voltage submarine cables.
The long-term strategic goal is a broadly integrated North African electric corridor feeding renewable solar and wind energy directly into the European grid.
And amidst all of this high-level geopolitical tension, the naval blockades and the proxy wars, we are tracking events on the ground that highlight human resilience.
Right now, Benghazi is hosting the North African Under-17 football qualifiers.
Youth teams from Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria have traveled to eastern Libya to compete.
Concurrently, European cruise operators, such as Costa Cruises, are reporting a massive 70% spike in Romanian and Eastern European tourists shifting their winter vacations away from the volatile Middle East,
choosing instead to dock at Atlantic and North African ports.
So what does this all mean? We have a staggering contrast. A sanctioned Russian tanker threatens a complete ecological collapse off the coast, while just miles inland, local communities are successfully organizing an international youth football tournament.
And European cruise ships are actively rerouting toward North Africa, seeking stability.
It demonstrates that the underlying economic engine, driven by regular citizens demanding normalcy and development, operates entirely independent of the geopolitical maneuvering of state actors.
Eventually, the state actors must bow to that economic gravity. What's fascinating here is the mechanics of necessity.
The ELMED interconnector and the push for North African gas fundamentally alter this strategic calculus.
Europe's desperate need for stable, low-carbon energy grids makes the resolution of Libya's internal conflicts an absolute necessity rather than just a diplomatic preference.
Stability in North Africa is no longer just a local humanitarian desire. It has become a strict European economic imperative.
To summarize our briefing, our analysis indicates there are 3 immediate events listeners should monitor in the coming days.
First, the salvage operations, the ecological monitoring, and the impending legal disputes surrounding the drifting Arctic metagas tanker.
Second, the logistical rollout of Italy's naval blockade legislation and the inevitable challenges it will face in international maritime courts.
And third, the diplomatic fallout and potential countermaneuvers by Greece and Egypt in response to Turkey's expanding agreements in eastern Libya.
We must also remind you of today's sponsor, Stylo News. This deep dive is a direct product of their platform.
Stylo News is an application available for your mobile device and computer. It allows individuals to customize personal, intelligence-style briefs, dynamically drawing from hundreds of traditional global news sources, as well as real-time sentiment on X.
If you require AI-powered news on demand, tailored to your specific strategic interests, you can subscribe to Stylo News at www.stylonews.com.
With that concluded, I think we can safely step out from behind the 1960s anchor desk.
Oh, absolutely. The serious broadcast suits are coming off.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Thank you so much to everyone tuning in and navigating that incredibly dense, interconnected intelligence landscape with us.
It is a lot of heavy material, I know.
It really is. But understanding how all these structural pieces, the climate, the energy grids, the shadow fleets, how they all fit together is just so crucial right now.
It really is. I mean, it's never just one issue in isolation.
Yeah.
We love taking these deep dives, and we want to know what you want us to unpack next.
Definitely. Please reach out and request topics for future deep dives.
You can follow Stylo News on all your favorite social media platforms to send us your suggestions. We read all of them.
But before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over based on our analysis today.
Yeah, lay it on them.
We talked about those massive submarine power cables, the ELMED interconnector literally physically wiring the electric grids of Europe and North Africa together. So, as these two continents become permanently tethered by energy demands, economic survival, and shared climate phenomena, how long can the Mediterranean realistically remain a heavily militarized border?
Wow, yeah. Think back to that maritime ghost ship drifting in the dark, ignoring all drawn borders. Eventually, the crises of one shore inevitably become the shared, undeniable reality of both.
It's definitely something to think about.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We will catch you on the next Deep Dive.